Alright, that's the opening cinematic to Master of Orion, the new reboot, revision, whatever you want to call it. I joined this game in early access, and I'm going to start off. I'll probably talk about kind of my thoughts based on the game up until now. This is now its official release. It kind of officially released, to me, it seemed very quietly. There wasn't a lot of fanfare or anything like that at the time. And I don't know. I've been holding off on reviewing this game. I will say it's impossible for me to talk about this game without also talking about Stellaris and, to some degree, perhaps Distant Worlds, and then obviously without talking about the, basically still the Jimi Hendrix of Space 4X, which is Master of Orion 2. And I'll also probably touch on Stardrive 2 as well when talking about this game. I'm going to just say right now, though, that I am still looking for the perfect next level of Space 4X game that does everything right. And I think, for me, at the moment, the Master of Orion reboot is the closest thing to what I'm looking for, even though I still have a lot of things about it I don't quite feel are there. Anyway, let's go into the single player. So, here we go. We'll do new game. I have to say right away, with some caveat, the game is exceptionally beautiful. One of the reasons, if you check at the moment of this recording, my review for Master of Orion is a thumbs down, and that's mainly based on simply the cost of the early access version, which was something like $60, and their justification was, well, it includes Master of Orion, Master of Orion 2, Master of Orion 3, 3 games of which I don't want. I already have Master of Orion 2 from goodoldgames.com, so thanks, but no thanks. And Master of Orion as well. If I wanted that game, I would just get it through goodoldgames.com, but Master of Orion 2 is a better game, even though what I really like is Master of Orion still had a lot of character, and it had different mechanics from MOO 2, Master of Orion 2, that, it was still a game worth playing. And obviously, I think, well, I do have criticisms of Master of Orion 2, and I'm just going to get those out of the way right now. One of which is it doesn't age well in a certain, let's say, politically correct is kind of a derogatory word, but let's say that I am tired of space games that give in to the juvenile, like, sex aliens from the planet Sex trope. It's immature. I'm tired of it. Like, every space game has done it, and Master of Orion 2 is sort of one of the originals, and at the time it was kind of like a wink wink nod nod to, like the 60s era, planet, the silly Amazon women on the moon. But it's gotten to the point now that I'm tired of seeing it in every single space game, and I want a space game that maybe feels a little bit more serious. And yeah, I'm glad that they've dropped that. Then this is another one that I don't know how to say it more delicately, so I'm just going to say it. Thank you. Goodbye to the offensive space Jew banker that was the Nolan. That was just... I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but that was just offensive. I mean, I don't think it was willfully offensive, but it's still... just don't. That's really dumb. One thing I do miss, though, was the Trilarians. I liked the idea of an aquatic race, and we don't have a truly aquatic race yet, in my opinion, and I'd like to see that happen in Master of Orion. And then finally, the Antarans were just, let's face it, the Antarans were annoying. I mean, as a mechanic, they serve their purpose, but I think Antarans should be limited to Master of Orion 2. I know that they're in Master of Orion 3, but in Master of Orion 3, I think they don't function the same purpose, and I do not miss the Antarans. I don't miss them. I don't care. So that's my thoughts about, our current version of Master of Orion. Let's go and click a new game. So yeah, of course, we'll replace it.
Hailing from the cloudy planet Altair, the proud Alkari are an old race of avian hominids. Although well known for their peaceful disposition, they are fierce in combat. and will rarely back out of a fight if they believe they have just cause. The Skylord rules over the flock uncontested. He is the de facto commander of all Alkari fleets, crewed by highly skilled and disciplined soldiers. Their pilots are among the finest in the galaxy. Alkari religion permeates every aspect of their culture, and their zeal can oftentimes be confused with fanaticism. They believe the god of sky created the Alkari to gaze over every horizon, and have been driven into space to fulfill that calling.
Okay, so that's the voice of Michael Dorn. If you don't recognize that, that's Worf from Star Trek The Next Generation. And another reason I really don't have any qualms for myself personally buying this game at such an expensive, perhaps even outrageous price, is that I can tell that the people who are developing this game have put a lot of love into it, and that means something to me, especially if I'm starting to compare this to Stellaris. For one thing, we have all the original lore races, except we have the new Terran Comet. This is a special bonus DLC that I got for being an early access buyer. I'm not crazy about this faction. I don't like the idea of two Terran factions particularly, but whatever. It's not going to make or break it for me. And even then, I still kind of like the, the wink wink nod nod to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. So yeah, the voice acting is top-notch, and they got a lot of icons from science fiction to do it. Furthermore, there's a lot of voice actors that are excellent voice actors, but they went out of their way to try to find voice actors that also have some kind of connection to the fan base. And it's a very minor thing, but it just shows to me a mentality on the part of the developers. It doesn't strike me as cynical fan service. It strikes me as these guys, I think, really loved this game and had a chance to try to take a shot at it and wanted to do it. Let's just look at the Bulrathi real quick.
The harsh Ursa system is home to the Bulrathi, a ferocious warrior race committed to the preservation of nature. Fearless and brutal in combat, they rely on their strength to overcome opponents, while their heavily armored fleets withstand wave after wave of enemy attacks. Fiercely territorial, they are usually reluctant to strike the first blow, but they will go toe-to-toe with anyone who wanders into their domain. Their rich spiritual life revolves around the Hag, an elder who speaks for nature itself. It was the will of the Hag that pushed the Bulrathi into space, as they sought to place the entire galaxy under their protection by any means necessary.
So, the aliens, I think they're staying loyal to the original lore, but they're also trying to embellish it quite a bit more. And this idea of a hag and everything, this is new to me for the Bulrathi. And ironically, I feel like the Bulrathi here are kind of riffing off of Stardrive's 2. I can't remember what they're called, but they're basically samurai bears. And then, of course, the samurai bears from Stardrive 2 are riffing on the original Bulrathi, I think. I will say, though, that the writing is not, in my opinion, top-notch, and this was the best example of that. This particular sentence here is not working for me. I think they should have written it, like, it doesn't read logically. Like, fiercely territorial, they are usually reluctant to strike first. That's not indicative of being fiercely territorial. Fiercely territorial, they will go toe-to-toe with anyone who wanders into their domain, does make sense. And so I feel like whoever did this writing, decided after that they wrote the first sentence here and then thought, no, we'll put this in as well, so they're not sounding like total jerks. But what they should have written is this: though they are usually reluctant to strike the first blow, they are fiercely territorial and will go toe-to-toe with anyone who wanders into their domain. That is, I believe, what the intent of the sentence is, even though if you follow it in a sort of grammatical and intuitive, A, B, C, D logical fashion, it sounds like they're saying because they're fiercely territorial, they're usually reluctant to strike the first blow, but they will go... What? That doesn't make sense. That's not the definition of territorial in my worldview. Now with the character designs, I really liked what they've done with the Darlock character design. I really like what they've done with the Mechlar, look completely different and interesting, very Matrixy. With the Cylons, you know, again, I like the 4 arms. Sorry, I am going to talk over you, Michael Dorn. Not crazy about the Silicoids. They're basically biped humans. I would have rather have seen something more interesting like what they did with the Mechlar. Klakons, fine. Humans, fine. The Mershan are maybe a little bit too Avatar, like Disney alien looking. Like, I don't know, this is like furry fetish territory to me. I'm not crazy about what they've done here. Let's see. I like the Sakkra. And I'm going to play the Sakkra, I think, just not to play the humans for a change. The Khanate, I'm not crazy about the mask here, but whatever. Yeah, the Bulrathi, the Elkari, whatever. They're, again, sort of Disney alien looking to me, so I'm not terribly crazy about the character design. Anyway, let's go with Sakkra.
Primal in their ways.
Now,
the cold-blooded Sakkra.
It seems like I had something else to say, but I'm going to just go ahead and skip through, and we'll go to next.
To many of the other races.
So, we're going to do. Let's just do a regular. Should we do circle? Fine. Let's do a small one. I'm not sure how much time I'm going to feel like spending on this game. To be honest with you, I'm still. I still don't know how I feel about this game. Classic should be fine. Big Bang Seed, let's go with 1. So yeah, if you want to see how it works out. Show the advanced settings. Now, if I were playing this on my own, privately, I would change some of these settings. And the ones I would change is I would turn off the pirates. I really dislike the pirates in this game. I want them to make it work, though. But what I dislike about them is I find them very immersion breaking. You have pirates from the very beginning of the game when you are supposedly first breaking off into space. But if you're pioneering the space frontier, where did these pirates come from? How did they get there? You know, to me, I don't like it. I think pirates should be something that emerge late, early game or mid-game in a Space 4X like this. Otherwise, I just kind of feel like, wait, you pirates already are here in this system I'm exploring? I don't like it. Anyway, and they're just really obnoxious. Like, I don't find them to be an enjoyable challenge. I think they're obnoxious, but I'm going to leave them on. Monsters, fine. I have no problem with the monsters. Allow racial traits? Sure. Balanced starting conditions? Sure. I don't know what this timeline thing means exactly. The timeline in the Path to Victory screen can be used to go back to the previous turns and take different actions. This option sets frequency and terms. The timeline saves the game at allowing to go back on bigger number results in smaller save game files. Well, yeah. I don't need that. Normal. GNN. Isn't there a way to turn on or off GNN? It seemed like there was. That's another one, too, that if I were playing on my own... Excuse me. I do not like GNN. I didn't like it even in the original Master of Orion for basically the same reasons that... yeah, there was... Oh, we can keep scrolling. That's what... There we go. Population, growth speed, yeah, etc. Victory types, score... Max turns, okay, fine. Actually, why don't we turn this down a little bit to, I don't know, 400. Oh god, I'm gonna sneeze again. Pardon me. Let's see. Yeah, just because I don't want a super long game. I swear to God, there was a way to turn on or off GNN. Maybe it's in just like the options as well as like the advisor stuff. The reason I don't like GNN is because it gives you information about races you perhaps haven't met, and I don't like that in a 4X game. I like the idea that there's this other side of the galaxy, and who knows what might be going on out there, you know. But GNN will ruin it for you and be like, oh, you know, the Cylon have a population boom. And you're like, oh, I guess the Cylons are in the game, even though I haven't met anybody yet. Anyway, let's go with this. Start game. I'm sorry we're not going to get a lot of gameplay in. I am mostly kind of turning this into a review preamble. Because I want to just say, you know, the things that the mindset I'm having as I go into this game, and what I'm going to kind of be looking at and looking for, you know, now that this is released. So this means, you know, it doesn't get any more passes from me for the, you know, early access stage.
While the sun scorched the harsh surface of Sla, the Sakkra Brood multiplied in their underground caverns. It was not long before even the largest grottos and the deepest ravines were crowded with their ever-increasing numbers, and food became a precious commodity. With greater numbers of mouths to feed, the brood now pours out from their caves to the stars in search of new dens for its families.
Big boss has summoned Stego, yes? This lackey serves the hierarch of the Sakkra, yes? His eyes wide open, watching. His brain thinking for bits of stuff to know. Inquire away, hierarch. Your lackey helps.
First, I recommend clicking a Fleet Needs Orders button to select your fleet. Yeah, okay, thanks. I will go ahead and leave the advisors on for a bit. This is another just really nice touch. The voice acting, I believe this is Mark Hamill voicing this one, but I mean, that makes sense. He's just such a talented voice actor anyway. Again, a lot of character being brought to these races, and, you know, speaking of Stellaris, this is exactly what Stellaris misses. And when you have a procedurally generated universe the way basically Stellaris does, I think they claim, I couldn't figure this out, but, you know, it's like you got these preset alien races that can appear, but you still end up getting just 14 randomly schmucked together races. And, you know, this is the same criticism of, what is it called, No Man's Sky. You know, when it's procedurally generated, all you end up having is a bunch of random stuff that is, you know, not distinct. It's not distinctive, has no character. But in this game, because they have gone to the effort of being like, the races are not procedurally generated, the races then have a lot of distinct feeling and character to them. You know, it's a one or the other kind of thing. There's still a custom race option, which I'm not going to look at. But yeah, it's a good thing. I think I would rather have a game that errs on the side of, oh, sorry, you only get these 6 races, but they're going to be distinct feeling, as opposed to like Stellaris, where what I like about Stellaris is you can have like 14 races vying for control over a galaxy, whereas in Master of Orion, you know, this is a small galaxy. We're limited to like 4, and that includes ourselves. But anyway, one thing that I dislike, however, is the galaxy view. This looks nice here, but when you zoom in, like, I can already see the planet here. Stellaris does this right, and it's simply a matter of galaxy scale and feeling the scale of the galaxy. But here it feels a little toy-like, because this is big, you know, visually speaking. I would rather, when I click on it, like as it was in Master of Orion 2, it's like you're zoomed out, click on the star, and then boom, you're right in here. And then, you know, yeah, just, it feels too small. It doesn't feel very grand-sized to me. I would rather have a bit more of a zoom distinction. By the way, this music we're listening to now, I mentioned in my Starbound video that it sounded like some music in Starbound was used in MOO 2. This is that song. I can't, for the life of me, figure out if it's still in Starbound or if it's the identical song or not, but oh my, I swear to God, like, I can't say I'm, like, you know, absolutely certain, but I would bet you that this song is in Starbound. I would take that bet. That's a, you know, I'd bet a beer on that. If not, it certainly sounds like the same composer, and oh my God, the atmosphere of it sounds exactly the same. But this is a really good song too. But every time I hear it, I'm just instantly thinking Starbound, to the point that I'm like, isn't this song in Starbound? Anyway, that's a little note on the music. One thing I dislike is, again, not just the scope size of the solar systems compared to the galaxy. Like I said, I would prefer having to yet zoom in more and more just to get the solar system be this size, and then have, at this point, still not, like, instead of having the planets take up this much radius, have them take up like this much radius. That would, to me, on the map, feel more immersive. The other thing I dislike is all of your systems are going to start with either an asteroid field or a gas giant, and you're not going to have any other planets in here. Now, MOO 2, you could have any number of different kind of starting planets. You wouldn't have any great planets, but you could have up to 6 in your starting system, and that was nice. It made some of your decisions different, like, well, I only have asteroid fields in my starting home world, so I better expand quickly, or, oh, you know, actually I have some barren planets. Maybe I'll build a colony base instead of a colony ship and expand that way, but nope, in this one, it's set. Not terribly crazy about that. I'm not a fan of that decision. Let's send our, let's just send us, let's send our frigate over here. So, explores the, asteroids. One other thing I don't like is, oh look, now I already have access to information on this star system from just moving over here. Again, it diminishes the exploration element of this game quite a bit to me. I really don't want to see this much information about the neighboring solar system until maybe I'm really much closer in the warp gate or something, or, you know, have the technology like long-range scanners or something like that to do it. It's just... That's how I feel. Feels a little toy-esque to me, a little bit like a toy. We'll go ahead and just set him up to move to that planet. There's a lot of planets in that solar system. Now, see, we don't know what's in this one. It's a yellow star, okay. This is also a yellow star. These could be 2 good planets. They're big, at least. They're big. But here, let's see, like if I move my scout over here, is it going to reveal, whoops, is it going to reveal that solar system? Yes. I don't like that. Like, I would rather have to go to the system to find out what's in it. Like I said, it just, I don't know, just doesn't quite sit right with me. Because this system has more stuff in it, it'll be a better long-term investment if it works out. So I'm going to send my colony ship at least over here for now. And yeah, you go on in there. Now, the hyperlanes, this is another big point of contention with the game, and it's one that I sympathize with. I understand the desire of developers to want to use hyperlane systems because there's a meta reason for it, and that is you can have the AI react to it better than if you have a freeform fly-anywhere system. Now, Stellaris kind of does it, but not really, in that their warp system still means that you just warp to... you can't freely warp to any planet within a certain range. You have to warp to the next closest star. Master of Orion 2 really had this right, even if their AI was not optimal. But what they did that I miss in this game is they had fuel cell technology, which was a limiting factor to your expansion, and it meant you could only travel within a certain amount of range, which means that in a sense you do have a lattice of warp lanes, because if your warp lane range is like this, then this is your warp lanes, basically. You can only move from this sector to this sector or whatnot, and there will be planets. I'm sorry, you're going to have to excuse me again. I have these awful allergies, and somehow, like, talking like this is aggravating them. But you still have kind of a lattice that you can draw. I mean, if you just take a star planet and you have a range of 5 parsecs or whatever you want to call it, then anything within that is makes a connection and makes a lattice, and then you just have to update that network every time that range gets expanded a little bit. And there's also technology that you can get in this game that allows you to do that, like building a warp gate, so you can essentially do that very thing. But what I liked about it, and what I dislike about the game right now, is your scouts, that technology doesn't exist. So, for example, even with your scouts, because this would affect your scouts, not just your expansion ships or your military ships, but your scouts could not explore the entire galaxy. If you wanted to start exploring the other side of the galaxy, you'd have to get those fuel cells to be able to get out there. And I really liked that. It really, to me, feels right. It feels exploratory, and it's an interesting decision to make in your game, too. Am I going to spend some research and time on getting range for my ships so I can settle, like, this star out here, which may or may not even have something? Or am I going to spend it on infrastructure research to build up my current colonies here? Please. Oh, I wish the developers would do this for this game. It's like I said, there's not a perfect 4X game out there, and that's the one thing that I have to have in a 4X game. Distant Worlds kind of tried to do it with fuel cells. Stardrive 2 did it much better in that they just balanced it better. Distant Worlds, there was no reason you can just like stockpile a ton of fuel cells and go to the other side of the galaxy, and there really needs to be another limitation, which is just like communication range, like, you know, a logistical range, because like I said, fuel cells really function more as just a logistical range, and having enough fuel to go to the other side of the galaxy is not the same as being able to logistically go to the other side of the galaxy. Like, you know, sure, you can go off that way, but at a certain point you're basically lost in space. You know, like, your empire doesn't have the subspace communications range to stay in contact with you. You don't have a planet to go back to for supplies or anything. Like, you're gone. You know, and fine, like, maybe then come back. I think Stellaris actually does have something like that working in their game. I only know this from the patch notes, but good on them. But still, even they have that same problem where basically a scout can, from the very beginning of the game, a scout can explore the entire galaxy. I don't like that. No, it doesn't work for me. I don't like it. So let's see. The graphics, I think, are very beautiful. One thing that super annoys me, and I'm going to check it now, and if they haven't done it, I'm going to be calling them out on it. There was always only one planet skin for each type of planet, and it was exceptionally visible with the Terran planets. Actually, let's go ahead and start our production. So here. We'll go ahead and get the biospheres, I guess. Building up our food. We'll keep the research the way it is. I'm just not gonna bother with it too much. Let's choose our research.
Tell these brainers what stew they should be brewing, Big Boss.
Yeah. So I will say with the character design, I like it. I do think that Stellaris has better alien-looking aliens, even though they're still mostly, you know, bilateral symmetry humanoids, but yeah, what can you do? I guess you can complain, which is what I'm doing. Anyway, the tech tree, very uninspired, guys. Really, like, this is where that game Polaris Sector, the one most exciting thing to me about that game is the way they totally innovated the way technology works. Even Civ Beyond Earth, I really love what they tried something new, and they tried to make it look like how technology would work in the future as opposed to in history. Now, to their credit, they've made it better. Like, they've introduced, like, oh, you can only choose one of these two options in the research upgrade. I will say one more thing that's bothering me is I have a trait called Uncreative, and I don't know what it means. I know what it meant in MOO 2. I don't know what its effect is here. There's a lot of stuff with the traits, especially if you go into the custom race creation. There's just not enough information to tell you what these things mean. I don't know what they mean. Some of them you do, some of them, like Uncreative, it's like, you are uncreative. Oh, okay. I guess I'm uncreative. That's, there you go. We're going to start with physics and go automated factory just to help with the production. It's something I always go to. I can't help it. This is a leftover from MOO 2. MOO 2, you always got the automated factory. One thing I really do like about the game...
Big Boss, thinking hurts my noggin.
Thinking hurts my noggin. Yeah, me too. I sympathize. I really like the way they've done the population thing here. They've tried to make it new, and every time you make a new game or a new version of a game, I want to see some kind of innovation, even if it doesn't end up being the best. How are we going to ever get better games if we don't try new stuff? And I can at least enjoy the trying out of something new, even if later I'm like, yeah, I prefer the way it's done in Master Orion 3 or Master Orion 2 or whatever. But yeah, the pips here and everything, that's fine. One thing that annoys me, You can't multi-drag. Like, if I drag this guy, I want it to work like it did in MOO 2, where it picks up him and him. But no. I'm trying to shift here. No. There we go. Control. If you use control, you can do it. Okay. So good. They did that. I thought I saw something in the release notes, so I'm glad I tested that before I just left my criticism hanging out there and looked like a fool. I'm sure that some of my criticisms will end up that way. Like, there may be things that, like, oh, this is actually not the way you thought it is. And by all means, please correct me in the comments. So, okay, where are we now? I guess we're ready to just end the turn. So, yep, let's go ahead. A fleet needs orders. Well, not sure why you... There you go. Whoa! What the... Huh. Interesting. That seems... I don't think it moves faster. I'm not sure what happened there, but I think it's okay. I think it's okay. Like, this guy should move to here and then to here. Okay, anyway. Yeah, we're done there. I want to find a Terran planet so I can talk about that element that's bothering me. I think the interface really looks nice. Here's where... oh, by the way, speaking of which, and this is something I do have a quibble with, is it starts you out at tax rate 3, but if you go to tax rate 4, there's no difference except, what, I'm making more money now? Yeah? So, game, please start me at 4 BC. If there's absolutely no downside to it, then start me here. Okay, yeah, I know that I'll get unrest sooner when I get a new population, but at the moment I don't have that, so yeah, just don't make me have to make a no-brainer choice like this that just is punishing me for not knowing the game yet. See, now I have... See, now I have a population strike, and he's telling me that, right? That's fine, so don't start me here by default, but yeah, between here and here, there's no disadvantage except that I'm aware of, except that at 3 I make less money. I'm gonna need the money, so yeah, that's annoying. Every time you start a new game, you just gotta go over here and fix it, is how it feels to me at the moment. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I think that's something that should be addressed. Also, show queue. I wish this was on by default, frankly. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Let's do another turn. I will wrap up this episode fairly soon. I know it's going kind of long, like, you know, we're over 30 minutes right now, but it is mostly me just kind of talking about, like I said, my expectations of this game and how I feel about it. There we go. And you. Terran. Okay. Yeah, here's my thing. Look at this. That there, that's Japan. That's Kyushu, that's Shikoku, that's Honshu. The only thing that's missing is Hokkaido. Okay? That's Japan. Now, and it's very recognizably such to me. Now, maybe because I spent a great deal of my life living in Japan, but still. And unfortunately what that does is every time I look at another Terran planet, it struck out to me that, hey, there's Japan on this planet too. And you start to realize that less so than with, like, the swamp planet, like, they could have gotten away with this a lot longer where I wouldn't have recognized, based on these patterns, the pattern of the water here, that this is the exact same skin, the exact same texture. But with the Terran one, because of that little Japan island, I recognized very quickly that, oh my god, every Terran planet has the exact same texture. In a game, I'm gobsmacked. In a game where they spent so much money and so much care on everything else cosmetically, that they don't have, that they only use the same texture for every planet. See, there it is again, Japan. Why? Why? It's such a minor thing, and yet at the same time, why? Every Terran planet should have a different skin. You know, it should have a different looking landmass. And before you think that's too much of a nitpick, you know what? Polaris Sector did it. I believe Polaris Sector, if I'm correct, procedurally generates all of its different land masses on all of its planets. And like I said, when I'm talking about things that developers do that just show a lot of love and attention to detail, that's the word, that's the key word, is that attention to detail. When you have that level of attention to detail, it really speaks to me as a player, and it indicates to me that you really care. If you're going to spend that much attention to detail, think of all the other things you're doing right with the game, that you surely are doing right. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that during early access I was like, well, maybe it's just they're doing it this way for now. But it doesn't bode well yet. I hope that I'm going to eat my words here in, like, you know, another minute or something. You know, when I find another Terran planet, I'm like, oh, wait, okay, all that ranting I was doing was totally pointless, and they have actually implemented new skins for planets or new textures for planets so that they aren't all the same Terran planet with Japan. But I'm worried. And if they haven't, that's my criticism. It's just, I can't believe it. I cannot believe that they just didn't do that. It's immersion breaking. It's like every Terran planet is the same. Yeah, I know they're the same statistically speaking, but could you at least have given them a different look so that they feel, so that I feel like I'm looking at a living universe? Okay. Next turn. Yes. Okay. Well, there's the space pirates. Again, I don't like the space pirates. Like I said, I want to keep them in this current game just because... Ooh. What is this? Pattis Prime. What kind of... Oh my... We found a Gaia planet? Holy cow. Wow. Okay. That's fascinating. Okay. Large, arid, abundant. Medium Terran, abundant with artifacts. Medium Gaia, abundant with artifacts. Yeah, this is a... Turn around, boys. We're going over here. Okay. So we're going to settle that Gaia planet. Wow, that's amazing. And there's no aliens or anything guarding it. Yeah, I can't believe it. That's incredible. Okay. Well, we're going to close the episode here for now. I have some things I feel about the way wormhole mechanics work in this game. You know, we'll see the combat. That's another very contentious issue, the turn-based combat versus the tactical combat. So yeah, I'll hope to remember to talk and give my thoughts on that. Again, like I said, I'm sorry that, like, you know, this is basically 5 minutes of gameplay and then, like, what, 35 minutes of me just talking and complaining. But I hope it's constructive criticism, and again, there are a lot of things that I still think this game is doing better. That, for me, this is the game that... Distant Worlds, nope, done with it. Deeply flawed game, abandoned by the developer. You know... I won't talk about Distant Worlds, but it's a game that when it was under development, I forgave it its warts with the tacit, you know, understanding that the developer was going to somehow eventually fix all the things that should have been fixed, that could have been fixed very easily. Stellaris, again, why they don't have why they're releasing expensive cosmetic DLC when their game is still not fun, and that's where I'm going to close. This is what is for me the clincher and why this game is going to work for me. Victories. We have a path to victory. I know what I'm doing. I have a goal. This is not a universe sandbox game. This is a 4X game. Distant Worlds is a game that is really a sandbox game. If you can play it as a sandbox game, you're going to be okay. It has victory conditions, but the game itself is so completely unbalanced that it's arbitrary. It seriously is arbitrary. You could play the Tekken and, like, win in 20 years because of an economic victory, just because of the way the victory conditions work in that game and the mechanics of the game. But here, you can have a score victory, which is going to be after our max turns are up, conquest victory, technological victory, economic victory, diplomatic victory. Stellaris has this, basically. And it's a very tedious one. I guess the other victory condition in Stellaris is you get bored and quit. But like all games have that, so I don't know that really counts. But yeah, this is what we need. If you're gonna have a Space 4X game, you got to have victory conditions. There's just nothing else to it for me. I'm not playing this game to. I consider it a very serious game design flaw if the only viable way to win the game is through destroying everything. It's much more interesting to have other alternative paths that you can take, and I don't know what to say. That's just the way it is. It's, to me, it's game design 101, you know. And that's it. That for me is it right there. That's why this game is the one that I would recommend over any of the others. Polaris Sector, I think, is still a little too rough around the edges, and my biggest gripe with Polaris Sector is definitely the Disney design, the soulless feeling of the races in it, even though I know that people are making mods for, like, Star Wars and stuff. Again, like I said, between all of these games, you know, somewhere in that sweet spot of the Venn diagram of all these games, Distant Worlds, Stellaris, Stardrive 2. I love the ship construction of Stardrive 2, and the tactical combat of Stardrive 2 works very well for me. And Polaris Sector tried to kind of ape it, but I don't think as effectively from what I hear. You take the innovation of the research in Polaris Sector, you take the grand scale that they achieved in Stellaris, and you know, some of the other mechanics that are very good in Stellaris, but you take the love, care, crafting, personality of Master of Orion combined with the focus on really making this a game. This is a strategy 4X game. Okay, you have a victory condition screen with paths to victory. That's just so essential. Anyway, somewhere is the sweet spot in the overlay of all these games that is going to make the next, like, William Shakespeare of Space 4X, like just the best new generation of Space 4X, that, you know, the Messiah, you know, the Emmanuel. I'm waiting for it, and I really want it so bad. Like, again, MOO 2 is a great game. I still think it's the go-to game that all developers have to know. And your core question when you start out making a 4X game is be like, how did they do it in MOO 2? And then ask yourself and hold every decision you make up to that lens and ask yourself, okay, you know, am I doing one better or not? And, you know, Stardrive 2, I will say, is almost completely a MOO 2 clone. But you know what? That's to his credit. Stardrive 2 has its own serious problems, but he was just like, you know what? MOO 2 did it right. And unless I have some other really brilliant idea on how to do it better, we're doing it the way MOO 2 did it. And that's where I think, you know, again, Stardrive 2 has a lot of hate, and the developer is controversial. But at the same time, he did it right. He did a lot of things right, which is simply doing what MOO 2 already did. MOO 2, to me, if I'm waiting for, you know, the Emmanuel, or this, you know, second coming of Christ, or the Jewish Messiah, or whatever, in terms of Space 4X, I guess I would consider MOO 2 to be like John the Baptist or Chaucer. And that's where we are, and that's where I feel our place in history, you know, if I start waxing grandiloquent about the whole thing, that's where I feel we're at. And that's what I want this game to be, because I think it would be just appropriate for Master of Orion to be the title that continues the legacy set forward by Master of Orion 1 and Master of Orion 2. And, you know, Master of Orion 3, imperfect though it may have been, it still changed the game, and it did what it should have done, and we can learn from it. And you know, Master of Orion 3, I'll say this, they had some damn good character design innovation to the base races, and in many ways I do think there's a little bit of a step back maybe in this version of MOO, even as there's some step forward with some of the designs. Like I said, I think the Meklar and the Darlock, they have done good. The Mershan, I feel, is a step backward compared to the way the Mershan were depicted in Master of Orion 3, even though they only appear in the cutscene. But anyway, I guess I should wrap up. Yeah, so this really has turned into more of a commentary review, pre-review of this game, and then please watch for more of the gameplay to decide, yourself whether this looks like a game you're interested in playing. Yeah, I'll try to explain, and I'll see how long I can go through this game. If it does bore me the way Stellaris does, I am going to have no compunctions about quitting. Oh, one more thing, final note about why this is the developer who I think deserves your attention. This game is missing one feature that appeared briefly in early access that they then removed. And I think it speaks very highly... Let's go ahead and just do next turn. I think it speaks very highly of this developer's intent and seriousness. And that is, there were minor factions in this game, and they have been removed. They appeared briefly in the early access, and then they removed them, and they're talking about right now, well, we want to put them back in later as an update. This is a little bit of a semantic issue for me, but I wish that they would just call it a free DLC that's coming instead, because everybody loves free DLC, and frankly, I wasn't expecting minor factions when I bought the EA of this game. I'm really happy. I would love to see them back, but where I think they really showed a lot of integrity as a developer is they were like, you know what, this isn't working, this mechanic isn't working, and we're just going to take it out until we figure out how to make it work, and we're going to remove something from our game to make it a better game. And that, to me, is basically the sin of Distant Worlds. Distant Worlds kept coming out with expansion after expansion and didn't bother to ever fix what was wrong with the base game, with the AI, similar things. Like, anyway, here we are in combat. We can only auto-resolve because our scout is a non-combatant ship, so yeah, we're gonna lose our scout. Do I care? Nah, not really, but I do gotta be careful with my colony ship, because that was a foolish decision on my part. I need to watch my colony ship and make sure if my colony ship gets wasted, well, I guess all I can say is it's a good thing I put this on normal difficulty, because that's a huge blunderous stupid move. Anyway, next turn. So yeah, man, okay, yeah, we got a problem here, guys. Yeah. You know what, though? We're going to pass each other in the warp lane. Combat doesn't take place in the warp lane. So, I do wish this game had freeform, just you can go anywhere within your radius of logistics. I still feel that way very strongly. Anyway, though. Back to the minor factions thing. They took it out of this game, and they're going to bring it back in when they're ready for it. And the fact that they were willing to make a decision like that, they were willing to... As we say in writing, in the creative writing world, they were willing to kill their darling to make it a better game, is just gives me confidence. It tells me this is a developer who is committed to making a good game, and that's what it's about. It's not about shoving as much gimmicky crap into your game as possible, Distant Worlds. It's about making a game that works.
I am the Emperor of the Bulrathi. If you wish to keep your flea-bitten pelt on your back, you'll give my kindred a wide berth.
Alright, well, the Bulrathi, Uzor, a little bit, not exactly welcoming, are they? Okay, well, that is going to conclude my first video here, almost an hour long now, just talking about how I feel about the state of 4X really in general, and my hopes for this game, and the fact that I think this game is probably the closest to it. That said, this is a contentious topic. It's ripe for generating a lot of hate, and all I can say is if you enjoy Distant Worlds, good for you. And I don't say that sarcastically. I put in hundreds, if almost maybe even 1,000 hours into Distant World since the release of Distant World Legends, back when it wasn't even on Steam. And I did get a lot of enjoyment out of the game, but at the same time, like I said, there were a lot of things that could have made the game better, that should have been done, that never were, and at this point, I don't feel they ever will be implemented, and I feel very betrayed. Not betrayed. Betrayed is the wrong word. I feel... I don't know how to describe it. It's like... I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little... I don't know what the word is for it, but I'm going to make an odd comparison. I'm going to say that I feel in my heart let down. And I just feel like what could have been, if only, you know, like so close and yet so far. With Stellaris as well, I'm just very upset with them that about the paid DLC that I feel should have been in there originally, cosmetically, especially when the game itself needs repair. And a lot of the arguments I feel people are making about money, oh, pay the poor programmer. I'm sorry, I was a programmer. No, those arguments don't fly for me. And then also with Polaris Sector, the reviews are still a little bit too mixed in my opinion. It's indie. I'm glad the guy's doing what he's doing. I wish him luck, but at the same time, I can't help but kind of facepalm and be like, really? Space koalas? You thought that was a good idea? You thought space koalas was a good idea? Like, Master of Orion, I can forgive it because it's legacy. Right, it's part of the legacy. But I don't want to see it in other games. You know, I can tolerate it in Master of Orion because it's paying homage to where it came from before. Just like, you know, kind of the Star Wars aliens that had plastic masks or rubber masks in the original Star Wars still reappear sometimes, just, you know, to pay homage to the legacy. But I'm not sure that that's the best creature design you should be going for now in the 2000s. It has a place in Star Wars, but maybe not in your other, like, hard sci-fi movie or something where you want to depict truly alien species or whatnot. Stardrive 2, man, that's another one just full of controversy. I really like the game. The problem with that game as well, though, is that it didn't really have any other win condition other than, like, destroying everybody everywhere. And even then, I didn't get a score screen, and I'm not sure if it was bugged or something. I hope that he's fixed it, but that was another game that just begged for victory points. But yeah, this for me is going to be my main hope. But if you enjoy any of those other games, I have gotten enjoyment out of the games. And nobody should tell you, nobody has a right to tell you that you can't enjoy what you enjoy. That's you, that's what you like. So again, I'm very critical of those other games, and it's only in the sense that I think there's a game still to be made that is going to be a great 4X game. And I just want that. I don't care who does it. I think right now, like I said, for me, Master of Orion, this version of Master of Orion is going to be the closest to what I want, even though it's still coming up short in many places. But I have faith that this developer, and I think also, if I was going to be honest, I think the developer of Polaris Sector is probably a very legit person, even though I do find some of his decisions to be, like I said, I got 2 words for you: space koalas, facepalm. Anyway, let's just leave it there. I feel like I'm kind of coming back and being circular, and you're just listening to me, you know, kind of B&M to a static screen. We'll take one more turn here. There we are. Okay.
And now...
Oh, here's the notorious GNN.
A gargantuan space creature has been discovered. All civilian craft are directed to maintain a safe distance from this dangerous creature.
I bet it's just in time to screw me.
The Galactic Cryptozoological Organization has designated this deadly entity Space Dragon.
Space Dragon. So, even with GNN, as contentious as it is, and immersion breaking, as I honestly do feel it is immersion breaking, it still has some legacy, and it did have a mechanics point. It does have a point in being in the game. Anyway, I'm leaving it on. I really like what they've tried to do with it. They've, you know, put a lot of heart and soul into making it fun, even if I'm probably going to end up turning it off. But let's go ahead and excuse me. Let's go ahead and settle our planet. So right now we can. I'm just going to move. That's going to end its movement. But
Wait. Look at here. Look.
okay, thank you. Even though we've ended our movement, we can still click our little flag here, and we're going to colonize this Gaia planet. And boy, what a sweet find. Alright, there we go. We got no production, but if we go down here, we only have 2 turns left before we starve. So you don't want to be doing that. You start out, I think you have 2 food in your stockpile. Here's an important thing. If you do end up in a situation where you're stuck, here's what you want to do. You're gonna want to get you're gonna want to be building something like maybe an automated factory, whatnot, or something that just auto adds to production. Whatnot. Let's see. For me, let's put in biospheres. But probably this will be your first build, for me anyway, will be an automated factory because it will add a flat +5 production, I believe, even if there's no population here. But the trick is, even if you buy it, like let's say I had 360 credits to buy this, it's still not going to get built the next turn unless I have a population here actually doing production. I believe that's the case. I'll test it again, I'm sure, before this playthrough's over. But you only get that 1 turn, right? I got 2 turns till this starves. In a pinch, buy it, move my guy down here for 1 turn, gets built the next turn, move this guy back up to your food production. Now I got the automated factory adding 5 production. It may not be an automated factory, it could be anything, or it could be a biospheres that starts adding food now, and then I can keep him down in production. My biospheres, it's a hydroponic farm, also just same thing, adds flat food production. But that's a very key thing to remember is you want to use that stockpiled 1 extra food for that first turn by rush. In my opinion, that's how you want to do it. So just keep that in mind for long-term strategy, because you'll be seeing that later. For now, we're putting this here. We can't do anything. We're just going to wait until our food builds up to 12 turns when we get another population unit that we can then move down here to production. So that's the plan there. All right, we're done. And yeah, space pirates are going to come in here and blockade my planet. Oh, we completed our biospheres. Okay, great. We need to make a frigate, I think. I don't know if I'm even going to get this done in time, though. But yeah. If I do this, we have -1 food, obviously. Can do this, and we'll get it in 2 turns. We'll get this in 3. As opposed to 5. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Let's rush out that frigate, and then we're going to rush out a colony ship, because we have a Terran planet in our next system, so we might as well expand quickly. And I think for the Sakkra, that's part of their gimmick, too, is they expand quickly. Here, let's go visit our Bulrathi friends. Ooh, electromagnetic disturbance. That always means it's a... Well, that we know that's where the Bulrathi are. We know that this is a gas giant because of the way that initial systems are always generated, which, you know, like I said, is kind of something I don't like. I do wish that there was sort of randomization to the internal solar systems. I wonder if that's what that balanced startup means. I wonder if you turn that off, if you can get different stuff in your starting system. That would be fascinating. This was a mistake. I should have seen this coming. I should have sent my frigate back into this system so I could address my incoming pirate grief. But because he's just going to warp over, or he's just going to move over here in 1 turn. Anyway, we'll deal with that in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Like I said, I know it's been a very long episode, mainly of me commenting on, again, this game and its other competitors. Competitors? I don't know. I think, honestly, the more 4X space games there are, the better it is for everybody. You know, like, not all of them have to be the same one, but like I said, what I'm looking for, though, is just that next game that pushes the envelope, pushes it to the next level, and I don't feel like Space 4X games are doing that. I don't think a Space 4X game has pushed it to the next level since Master of Orion 2. I think Distant Worlds is one that a lot of people say did, but I disagree. Because it got abandoned. It's a deeply flawed game. It had a lot of potential, has a lot of potential still, but it is essentially a deeply flawed game. And if you spend as much time with it as I have, those flaws become unbearable is a little bit too strong a word, but it gets to the point where I can't play the game without having to... I can't ignore its flaws, and it affects my enjoyment of the game, and I am frustrated that those flaws are basically permanent now. Anyway, again, thanks for watching. Talk to you in the next episode, where I promise there will be more gameplay. I want to play the game. I want to see how it goes. I want to eat my words. I want Master of Orion to convince me that it is the game that I hope it is, but that I still don't think it is. But I hope that getting all my criticisms out there in the front will help anybody interested in the game to kind of go into it with eyes wide open. And like I said, if you enjoy this game or any of those other games, that's good. You know, what can you ask for in life? You should enjoy what you enjoy, and just because other people don't enjoy the same thing, well, you know, so what? I mean, I'm not going to feel bad because somebody thinks vanilla tastes better than chocolate, but I like chocolate more than vanilla. I mean, what kind of an argument is that for somebody to say I'm stupid because I like chocolate and they like vanilla? That's no kind of argument, right? But a lot of times with games, I feel like people get into those kind of arguments, and it's just like, who cares? You know, like, just because I read a bad review of the game and I say why I don't like the game and it's a bad review of the game, and you happen to like the game, it's a difference of opinion, man, okay? I'm not recommending it. I'm saying why I don't recommend it. Another person can read that recommendation and decide for themselves how they feel. Personally, I like to read the negative reviews, because I feel like if I read it and I'm like, okay, I have an enthusiasm for the game, let's hear from somebody who doesn't like the game as it is, and let me balance those two and see if their concerns resonate with me or not. And if they don't, then I'm going to feel super confident going into this game. You know, I'm going to feel like this isn't me being hyped about the game. This is me like seeing a game that I'm legitimately liking. And, you know, if somebody dislikes a game because it's turn-based instead of real time, I happen to like turn-based. So basically their negative criticism is a positive criticism for me, you know. Anyway, that's enough of that. I'm going to go on all day if I don't shut up at some point. So this is the point at which I shut up. See you next time. Bye-bye.